Welcome, America. I'm your host, Darius Saber, and today we're going to take on the world from all angles. Me and my crew of experts and analysts understand that the world faces a lot of conflict and turmoil, and it's up to us to break it down for you. Let's take a second, and first, let's meet our experts. Here I have to my right, Morgan Dodds. She is a Democrat. She is the historian of the National Honor Society and the chairperson for Relay for Life. Next to her, I have Lara Washa. She is a Democrat. She wants to study psychology and be a psychiatrist, and she has once lived in Jordan. And next, finally, we have Julia Abbas. She is a Democrat. She is president of FBLA and the editor for our school newspaper. Let's take a minute and meet my analysts. First, to my left, we have Richard DeVivo. He's a Republican. He'd like to go into the Naval Academy when he's older, and he currently runs cross country for Wayne Hughes. Next, we have Julian Mayer. He's an independent. He wants to go into business when he's older, and he also runs cross country with Rich. Finally, we have Vaishali Gandhi. She is a Democrat. She wants to study medicine, and she has once lived in England, India, and Hong Kong, so she's a very well-rounded. Now, Rich, let me tell you something. We both know about my Acura. Gas mileage is terrible, right? So I have to fill it up like every other hour. And every time I fill it up, it's like another $50 out of my pocket, another $50 out of my pocket. Like, something's got to be done here. Tell me about it.
The conflicts in the Middle East, like such as Libya, are like just rising the prices on oil and gas. So basically, the price of oil is just shooting up our gas prices, and it's affecting all of us.
So what's wrong with Libya? Why can't we get any of the oil?
It's just all these conflicts are happening with their leader, and that's basically just affecting us as a country.
Yeah, it's tough. Lara, got any input for me?
Yes, I believe that we should use water as an energy source just because it worked for America in the 1920s and 30s. FDR made a new deal that's called Tennessee Valley Authority. It brought basically electricity for the undeveloped area of the country. And it was safer, cheaper, and basically it was great. And it did not harm the environment at all.
So, Lara, how is that supposed to help our gas problem?
Well, if we replace gas with electricity, we could change the way we drive our cars. Our cars maybe could be smaller, but at least we're saving the environment, helping the world, and it's very cheap.
Well, right now we don't have that technology to run cars on hydropower.
We also don't have the money either.
We have the technology. It's more the money, I think.
I don't think so, because we only have one alternative right now, and that's just regular electricity. And, you know, I think it's really just the oil companies who are just really hanging this over our heads. There's no reason why we have to pay $4 a gallon. There's no gas crisis. It is only due to the fact that these oil barons just want to take every single dollar from us.
You have a good point there, Julian.
Vaishali, what do you think about this whole oil crisis?
Well, I don't agree with Julian, because if the supply is going down and the demand is going up, then that does make sense that the cost should be going up.
Well, how do we know that the supply isn't going down? I mean, is or isn't going down? We have no definitive oil reserve, as in, I mean, we do know that we have at least 40 years in reserve, but there is so much more that we could possibly extract from the ground. And so far, it's only, we really don't need to do all this, you know, we don't need to increase this price to this amount. It's $4 a gallon. The demand is still up, but there's no supply.
Hey, Julia, I think you have something for me?
Well, I mean, it's been known since the 1950s that we've been running out of resources, so I'm not sure if, like, you're just not believing them, like if you think the government's lying, or...
Currently,
Well, in 2009, there was actually an increase in our reserves by 1.9%. How does that happen?
but currently we have 2 to 3% of oil reserves, and we're using 25%. And so that's where the problem is, that we can't be doing that.
So even though we are increasing the amount of oil that we have, there's no oil.
And that's the problem.
No, that's not a problem. We have enough oil to last a few hundred years at least. There's no definitive answer.
I mean,
Well, what Rich just said before, that was because of the conflicts in Libya. He said that Libya has a lot of oil for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like there's actually a true amount. America could have enough to last the entire world hundreds of years. We don't know. No one knows. It's only how much we have right now in our possession, but that's it.
Yeah, and not just America too. Like the Middle East is so rich in oil that like they could provide us for years with oil too.
But we can't keep depending on that oil because at some point that's going to run out. So we can't keep depending
How do you
on
know
the
it's
Middle
gonna run
East. Even if it doesn't run out, we can't keep depending on the Middle East.
But how do you know it's gonna run out?
It's not about whether it runs out. We can't keep depending on the Middle East. We can't be indebted to them forever.
All right, Vishali, I understand. That's a good point, guys. Well, that was all about our oil. We'll be right back. Welcome back, America, to From All Angles. Now, at Wayne Hills, as every student knows, parking is a problem, especially now with the back parking lot being occupied by the construction of solar panels. However, these solar panels are going to create more energy efficiency throughout the school and are going to ultimately help us save money. Vishali, I understand you have a great, basis of what alternative energy can do for us. Can you explain a little more for me?
Well, I think it's a really great idea, and it's a really great thing that the school is doing, because in the long run it's really going to help us, because the school uses a lot of energy, and by installing the solar panels it's really going to help alleviate some of the pressure that the energy puts on the school in terms of finances. So I think it's a really great idea.
See, my problem is the initial cost of this is a lot of money.
The thing is, you could think about the initial cost, but it's not really that substantial that you're going to say, oh God, we're actually spending this much money. It's actually going to save us money in the long run. We are going to be saving over the next few years thousands of dollars because we're not going to be paying these high tax dollars on electricity.
So let me ask you this. So the school's going to be saving this much money with alternative energy. How much money do you think we could save if our cars all had alternative energy use?
It's going to be a lot. Right now we're paying through the nose to these oil companies like Exxon, who had a quarterly profit of $11.9 billion, and for no apparent reason at all. So if we start using alternative energies, then we won't have to pay these ridiculous prices for electricity, when we could really just use, solar panels or wind energy, which are really developed over the past few years.
I see. So, Julia, let me ask you a question. I understand that you've done research about the past and how oil has affected us and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything you'd like to share?
Well, no, basically since the 1950s we've known about alternative energy, and it's become a big environmental issue and a lot of the population issue. But no, I basically agree with Vishali. I think it's going to be a great thing for our school in the long run. We're going to be saving a lot of money, although it is a little bit of a hassle having to redo our front parking lot, but I think it's going to be fine. And I think that we've grown since the 60s and are finally, coming to terms with what needs to be done.
I definitely agree. And I'm glad that the school is getting involved. And, if the government would just get involved a little bit more like they did in the Industrial Revolution, when they saw, public works like energy, is crucial, and then everything just came full circle and people prospered from it. The economic growth of the Industrial Revolution went sky high, and, we could, again, feel that economic greatness if we just invested in, good green energy.
See, I agree with that, but my problem is in our economic state, it's hard to, invest in all this money, especially when in Obama's State of the Union speech, he stated that he wanted to have a 5-year freeze in spending, and we don't really have the finances to do that in this time.
Well, I think we do have the finances. It's not about getting more money, it's about moving money around. Right now we're spending 58% of discretionary spending right now is on the military. And we can really, if we move that around, we can move that to the environment. And
You don't think the
finding more
military
green
is
energy.
important?
I do think it's important, but I don't think that it requires 58% of our spending, of our budget.
I think if we don't have a strong military, our country could go in even bigger problems, which can supersede the energy problem right now.
I
The,
don't-
the only thing I have to say about that is we're spending so much more money on the military than any other country that it's almost impossible for any other country to almost attack us. And we have the natural barrier of the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean that should pretty much protect us for a long time.
Well, actually, China's military is actually growing substantially, so
Not to the point that you're going to say that they can invade America right now.
I never said they could invade it right now, but if we don't keep spending the same amount of money on the military as we do now, that our military will get superseded by China because they already have superior numbers to us.
Well, China.
Well, you talk about the military. Then we'll talk about nuclear energy, right?
Yeah, nuclear energy has been around since the 50s, ever since, the Manhattan Project. But really, I think it's a bad idea that we continue using nuclear energy. I mean, for example, you look at Chernobyl and you look at what's happening in Japan. There's too many risks. If there's one accident, then there's going to be entire areas of the country that are going to have to be completely shut off and quarantined.
Yeah, I agree with that. Nuclear energy, there's a lot of risks, and I mean, the technology's outdated. I think we should go towards more renewable sources once we get enough finances for that.
All right, well, that was all we had to say about energy. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Welcome back, America. And now to continue our discussion with solar power and solar energy, we're going to start off with Rich DeVivo, who has a great understanding of the local government and how they're controlling it. So let's start off with him.
All right, the head of the district's building department, John Masso, said that the solar panels can potentially save tons of money for the local area, especially for the school. And the school board president said that any ways we could save money is crucial, because if we could save money on other costs, we could have more money to focus on our academics to expand education in our school. And also the district doesn't have to pay for any of the costs for the materials or construction, so it's a pretty good idea to save money.
So, that's actually pretty interesting. So, how do you think that we're going to get a refund with all this new solar energy?
A company is actually paying for this, and they're installing the solar panels for free, and all the extra electricity is going to go back to the power grid, so they end up benefiting from it.
All right, well, recently we actually had something with wind power, which it's a kind of interesting controversy in Wayne, where Wayne Auto Spa actually sued the town because they weren't allowed to build wind turbines. So why can't we spend our money on wind turbines, which is actually a proven source of energy, where we have solar energy instead of solar energy, which is not as proven as wind energy?
Well, actually, Julian, I think solar panels are more proven than wind energy, because wind isn't constant when solar power is.
Think that if you guys think wind and solar power can reduce us using oil, why can't we have biomass as well?
Biomass is a good idea. California had a lot of success using biomass for years.
I think it's just not proven. Like I was saying, wind energy, because it's a commodity that we've had for years.
But the problem with wind energy is that wind isn't constant. Like Rich was saying before, we can't trust that we're going to have constant wind.
Yeah, but there's always going to be enough. And there's always going to be, we could always switch to a grid system where if there's places with more wind, we could always, use it, send the energy to places where they don't have as much wind. So if we connect wind power to a grid system, we could actually use it to a point where it's actually going to become successful.
Well, you guys don't think that hydropower would be a good idea? I mean, you're talking about running out of wind and all this. I mean, the Earth is covered like 3/4 of water, so I think that'd be a pretty good alternative energy as well.
Well, I think hydropower is great. I mean, the U.S. Department of Energy just recently invested $26.6 million for hydroelectric research, and it's a really great way to sustain wind and solar energy, because when wind dies down, we can sustain the wind plants with hydroelectric power, because we can store the power that we get from the hydro plants in the dams.
So you think that hydroelectric power is the best way?
I do.
Julian, what do you think?
I actually have a problem with hydropower because I think it actually harms the environment to the point where the species in the in the rivers that they have to flow by, they actually are getting impacted. Like fish are having. There's actually been certain cases where there have been fish becoming almost extinct because
like in Japan.
because there are just large amounts of fish just not being able to go across the dams because they're just too large.
So what do you think is the best?
I think the best is, well, like what Rich said, solar panels or wind power, because they're two constants. Because believe it or not, we're never going to run out of wind. Believe whatever you guys say. And the sun, that's also constant until we're pretty much dead.
Well,
Rich, what do you think is the best?
For me, I think solar, because out of the three, it's the least expensive, because dams cost a great amount of money to build, and so these wind turbines and solar panels are relatively inexpensive.
Let me take it to my experts for a second. Morgan.
Well, no, if you're talking about consistency, why don't invest in geothermal? I mean, the ground is always going to be there. That's not ever going away. And we already have 600,000 homes in the U.S. that are heated and cooled using geothermal pumps, and there's no electricity and no oil even used. So why not invest in that?
Like I said, it all depends on how much science has already been proven. Solar panels and wind energy are two traditional, alternative energies.
Why can't we have new alternative energy?
Right now, I'm just saying that it's very hard to just create the new,
Well, that's a great point, Julian. I understand. I said both sides, wind, solar, hydroelectric, they're all great. We got to take a break. We'll be right back, folks. Welcome back, America, again to From All Angles. Now let's talk about the state of New Jersey. The Garden State, there's a lot of farms around here. We all know about farm waste, and using biomass, you turn farm waste into energy. Now one of my experts here has done research about this. Let's take it to Lara for a second.
Yes, biomass can include old tree cuttings, rice husks, corn stalks, and etc. Almost any kind of biological farm waste. Do you know that that's very good for the environment? That's not hurting the environment in any way.
Well, I don't think anyone's questioning that. I think my big gripe with it is how much research has been done on it, because it seems like to me relatively new.
Well, Germany, Sweden, and Netherlands have undertaken projects that use biomass to generate its heat and electricity, which have been successful. So why wouldn't it help America then? Why can't we use biomass as a new energy source?
See, my problem with it is solar, wind, and hydroelectric energy is such more efficient. So why would you switch to a less efficient energy source such as biomass?
Well, it saves us a lot of money than importing oil. And right now we're abusing oil very, very much. And we need to let go of using oil, because it says the use of biomass can also reduce the need to import oil. So why can't we do that?
Yeah,
It's going to cost money for the research for biomass.
Yes, of
It's
course.
still relatively new, so money's going to be a factor for both.
Of course, everything has money involved in it. But why can't we put our money, invest our money into something that will eventually let us save money? That's a good question, isn't it?
I mean, solar energy could save money too, and we already have that technology. So why would we want to invest more money into something new?
Well, America is trying to find new ways to save money because we're in debt. Don't forget that. So if we try using a new energy source like biomass, can help us a great deal, maybe better than water, wind, or hydro.
And it solves two problems. America is known for using, just a surplus amount of stuff. So not only could you get energy, but you could get rid of like the farm waste and all this other stuff that we just, leave like in like landfills and stuff like that. We can turn it into energy.
I mean, I agree with you on that, but I just really think that in our economic state right now, it would just be more beneficial to us to use the current technology that we have.
But in 20 years, we're still going to be in the same way we are now if we don't change.
Yeah, but solar and wind and water power are constants. So why would you want to change something that might not be a constant in years to come?
Because we said the same thing about oil, didn't we? Back in the 1920s and 30s. We abused it, and now they're saying scientific proof that Fashali actually said in 40 years we won't have oil because we're abusing that. What if we abuse water? Why don't we try? We have a lot of farms. We have less than maybe 5% of farmers now, and we need food. And the trash they're throwing away goes in landfills, like Morgan said. So why don't we just take all that waste and put it into a new energy source, which is biomass?
It's not a bad theory.
But you just talked about how we have farms, but when you talk about us running out of water, our thing is there's a lot more water than there are farms in the U.S.
I don't think so much running out of it, just abusing it, like depleting it entirely, and just like
There's enough
Julian
water.
says, endangering new species of like animals and stuff like that.
You know what? Water isn't that much of a constant in my opinion. I think in the next few years we're going to see more of a need for water, clean water, because we're actually running out of water. It's something that is a very limited source, and most of the world doesn't have it. We're lucky that we do. And I say within the next 20 to 30 years, that's going to be something that's going to be very sparse.
Yeah, but my thing is some hydroelectric power actually has basically something similar to wind turbines. They actually have water turbines,
Yeah.
and it's underneath the ocean, drilled to the bottom of the ocean floor, and the water propels the turbine to create electricity.
I mean, I think that would work, but like you said before, how much work has been put in? How much work have we been putting into it?
There actually has been a lot of scientific proof and research that actually works.
Guys, you know what I wonder? I wonder exactly how this whole crisis started. Like, what really set it all off? I mean, America's always been like energy, using it. I want to know exactly where it started. And I think Julia, one of my experts, can help explain that for us.
Well, I mean, the 50s, 60s, and 70s was a time when, kind of like the hippie era, we're kind of, finding out about alternative energies and everything. The Clean Air Act was also passed, which helped Americans become more aware of the dangers of using fossil fuels and, basically prove the point that we do have to switch to alternative energies. So I'm curious as to why, today, we're still wondering, okay, why are we still, reliant on oil, and why can't we keep going for solar energy? I don't understand why it's, not being done if we've known about it for so long.
It's very easy. It's the economy.
Yes, the economy is really affected right now, but switching will maybe help it. You never know.
Well, I agree with that, but unfortunately right now, the way how our society works, we spend too much time trying to protect people that have too much money. For example, the people from ExxonMobil with their $11.8 billion profits. That's not necessary. But unfortunately, as a society, we tend to try to use that kind of
Yes.
resource.
So in the end, it all comes back down to money, just like everything else in the world.
Exactly.
So that would be it. In our next segment, we'll talk about the economy. We'll be right back, folks. Thank you. Welcome back, America. Right now we're about to discuss the subsidies of the oil companies. Let's start off with one of my experts. Julia, explain it for me a little bit.
Well, basically, Winston Churchill started advocating for BP, and once that started happening, then subsidies began coming in from the government and towards that, and also natural energy sources.
I understand. Vishali?
So the problem with tax subsidies is that there's no definitive answer to whether tax subsidies work. I mean, the president of Shell said it himself after a hearing that the Senate had with the 5 major oil companies, and a bill was just defeated in the Senate, which would have stripped the major oil companies of about $20 billion in oil subsidies over the next 10 years.
Yes, but Vishali, the tax subsidies are obviously working because Exxon's getting their tax subsidies, and they have record profits, and they're in prosperity right now. So when you say that's working?
I don't think so. I don't think that the reason they're prosperous is because of the oil subsidies. I think that they shouldn't be getting the oil subsidies because they're prosperous.
Yeah, but the oil subsidies could be the reason why they are prosperous.
I think that they shouldn't be getting them, and I think that they should be going towards smaller companies which need them more at this time.
Well, in Obama's State of the Union address, he said that he was going to invest in energy. But the problem is we don't have any finances to do this right now.
Well, if we took the oil subsidies away from the big companies, we would have that money.
I think that money should just go into our economy, and we shouldn't use it on energy at all.
It's really important to invest in green technology if we want to cut down on our national debt.
I'm not arguing that we shouldn't invest. I'm saying in our economic state, we can't invest right now.
But we can get money from cutting down on oil subsidies if we take it away from the big 5, which are already prosperous.
We can't get money because we are already in trillions of dollars in debt in this country. So how are we going to get money out of nowhere?
By taking it away from the big 5 oil companies, which are already prosperous.
That's a couple of $1 billion. That's not equal to trillions of dollars that we're in debt.
But by taking it away, we're getting enough money that we can start investing it in places which are going to bring returns.
It's
And-
still not relevant to what I was saying.
You're taking more from the rich and giving to the poor, basically.
I think that we should take it from people who don't need it right now,
Like a Peter Pan approach.
if that's what works.
All right, well, you guys just had a really great duel, but let's take it to our parting shots. Vishali, you start us off.
Well, I think that the government is doing a good job right now, but we really need to be investing in green technology, and the government has started with the new administration, but we really need to start cutting from places like defense and putting more into green technology.
Rich?
See, my opinion is that with the whole energy thing, alternative energy is great, but in our economic state, we can't afford to invest in anything. So we should, right now, stick with oil, and then eventually, when we are prosperous, we could switch to alternative energy.
Well, I think right now it's a crucial time to start investing in green technology if we want to lower our debt.
That's your opinion. I have mine.
All right, thanks, guys. Well, in the past few segments, we've gone over various subjects and topics having to do with the crisis Americans are currently facing regarding energy. As we first discussed, the price of gas in this nation is well over an affordable fair amount for the average American. And since oil is being burned faster and faster and running out quicker and quicker, an alternative energy source is an inevitable need. Solar energy is a broad, well-supported idea using the rays from the sun to power our appliances. The Township of Wayne supports this alternative energy use, as the Wayne Hills and Wayne Valley School parking lots are currently under construction to build them. Nuclear energy has been deemed the most dangerous energy source, though effective. Nuclear power has potential to end the world and has shown flashes of it in the recent history, but despite the high risk, has a high reward in the end. Hydro energy is an idea still fully developing, but if we can actually figure out a way to permanently use water as energy, we should be set for a little while. And living in New Jersey, we see that biomass and using farmland waste as energy is a very real possibility. With all the farms around the Garden State, it should be well tested and begin to spread around the state within the years to come. And that was our show today, America. You just witnessed everything from all angles. See you next time.